Welcome to Your Vote, yourTV's extensive coverage of the 2025 federal election, the 45th general election. And joining me in the yourTV studios today is the newly re-elected MP in the new riding in Northumberland-Clarke. Philip, thanks for taking time out. I know that you and I both had a late evening last night, as many people across this country did. So how are you feeling this morning with the results?
I'm tired right now, but no, I'm bullish on the results. A mixed bag, to be honest. Of course, our leader losing his seat in Carleton was far from ideal, but it was actually one of the, I think it was the highest, if I'm not incorrect, popular vote the Conservative Party's received since Brian Mulroney, right? We received 144 seats, which is the most we've had since Stephen Harper. They said the real story of this election for me is the collapse of the NDP. Even in our own results there, I can't remember exactly what I think we're around 50%, and John was around 45, which is a pretty tight margin. But if the NDP had performed anywhere near where they'd performed in the last 4 or 5 elections, we would have won by 15 or 20 points, right? So the good news is conservatism has been so largely supported since the 1980s here in Canada, and so we're excited about that. The challenge is, of course, we've got a leader who unfortunately lost his seat, and we have a Liberal government at the end of the day.
So let's unpack. There's lots to unpack. As you stated, Pierre Poilievre lost a seat that he's held for 20 years, but it seemed like his message resonated across the country. As you stated, the highest percentage of voter since Brian Mulroney, and in any other year, you would have formed a majority government for sure. But as you stated, the collapse of the NDP, it really came down to 2 parties really across this country. The Liberals and Conservatives fought back and forth all night long. 168 seats at the time of this taping, and that's either elected or projected to win or leading at this time. 144 for the Conservatives, 8,335,100 votes currently. For the Liberals, 7,928,163 for the Conservative Liberals for the first number, 43.5% for percentage for the Liberals, 41.4. This is a country who's divided. So how do we bring this together now? Yeah. Because really that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I think that is a great question, Mark, and that's actually something I saw on the doors. Of course, as we've done the last couple elections, we knocked over 30,000 doors. It gives you a pretty good sample size of talking to individuals, and I had folks on my side who were very passionate, and probably there were some challenging things. Like they were really upset about the way things had gone over the last 10 years, and quite frustrated, and they shared that frustration. And on the other hand, I've had things happen this election that I've never had happen. I had someone take a pamphlet and rip it up in front of my face, basically throw it at me. I had someone deface my pamphlet and take it to me. Like we need to cool the temperature down. Like this is not who we are as Canadians, right? So we need to be united, especially in the face of the Trump challenge. And I'm certainly going to do my part. And of course, as your viewers might have caught my speech, as I said in 2019, I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm not just the MP for the 50% of the folks who voted for me. I'm the MP for 100% of people of Northumberland-Clarke. And so I want to get to know, and I mean this sincerely, the concerns of those folks who didn't vote for me. And let's understand our issues. And we may not get to agreement, but we shouldn't get to the point where we raise voices and get angry. We need to work through these things as a country, just like a big family, right? Like we can share our differences, we can argue with one another, but once we leave that kitchen table, we walk out as allies and friends, and we need to make sure that we're united against such threats as Donald Trump.
You said in your answer it's time that we need to cool the temperature down. But how much of that is from the messages that your party, your leader had over the last year leading up to this, to the inevitable election of, some of the tones, some of the comments, some of the way he brought himself, saying Canada broken, saying this and that, and the rhetoric that kind of grew there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with going into the battlefield of ideas and discussing it passionately. And that's what I mean. Like, we can argue, we can disagree, and I'm not going to back away from my principles one iota. But there's a way of disagreeing without being disagreeable, right? Like, we don't have to rip up pamphlets. We don't have to disparage people. Like, I mean, I candidly heard people describe Pierre in terms that were just like in language that I wouldn't repeat, and I just don't think that that's the right way. And I'll certainly caution my own team too that it's Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he was duly elected, and quite frankly, we hope that he's successful. But we just cannot, like, the fractious nature of this, it just escalates to, like, if one side takes it up a notch, then the other side matches, the other side matches, and before you know it, you're at an incredibly polarized politics, which doesn't help anything. And like I said, I'm a big fan of debating, and I think, and I'll probably more than most candidates debate people at the doors, because I think that is fantastic, because it's that discourse that either makes me better or allows someone else to be better from learning some new information, right?
So let's just talk about Pierre Poilievre, and we will circle back to get more local as well, but we're on this topic of national, so we'll continue on that. And I will state, we're taping today, Tuesday, April 29th. Nothing is official yet, but, we all see politics, we all see the numbers, we all see, they may move a little bit back and forth, but certainly that is what we're kind of seeing right now, is certainly a Liberal minority as well. So let's talk about Pierre and his future. The speech he gave was to the party, to Canada, was certainly before the official results came in. I think I went to bed about 2:30, and there still was nothing settled. It seemed to trend that way, that he was going to lose his seat. What is his future? And I know that you and I spoke last night, and I know that you are truly behind Pierre, but what is his future? Because certainly we went into this election, 25 or 30 point lead in early January, depending on who you talk to. You come out of this, yes, a larger percentage of votes than you had since Mulroney, but you did lose the election, and your leader lost his seat. So what's his future? Yeah,
so I believe that Pierre will stay on, and we have to look at everything sort of in historical context. Everything you said there, Mark, was right. We did lose the election. We'll have a Liberal government, but the reality is that it's a Liberal minority. We got 42% of the vote. In a normal year where we have an NDP that's not completely destroyed and collapsed, we would form a majority with that. Harper didn't get 42%. I don't believe when he formed his majority. We have the most seats we've had since Stephen Harper. The Liberals made a concentrated effort to take Pierre's seat. They spent a ton of resources. They spent a ton of money. And I don't know this for a fact. I haven't talked to Pierre, and I haven't talked to the leadership team about this, but I suspect our team, instead of saving Pierre's seat, went and went out there and tried to win more seats so that we could form government, so that we could protect Canadians. And I think that is 100% the right call, and I think that's a selfless decision. I believe that Pierre will get re-elected in another riding, and he will serve our leader, and I firmly believe he will be Prime Minister.
You'll know this more than I do, but does his defeat trigger a leadership review within the Conservative bylaws?
No, I don't believe it does. I could double check that in the next show, but I do not believe that there's an automatic leadership review because that didn't happen. Yeah, in fact, I'm positive that because it didn't happen underneath Andrew or Aaron when they were unsuccessful. And so, no, there's not an automatic leadership review. And quite frankly, they said, I think Pierre's the guy, right? So we had factors that were once in generation. Like we had the NDP collapse. They haven't gotten this little vote since, I don't know, maybe the 70s. We had Donald Trump, and so there's a natural sort of rally around the flag reaction to that, and can't blame Canadians for that. And so any incumbent, whether it be Doug Ford or whether it be Mark Carney, people sort of rally around the person who's in office right now. And all that said, and he still got 42%, and we got 144 seats, I think, right? Yep. That's right. So we increased our seat count. We got the highest percentage since Brian Mulroney. And I firmly believe that the more time people get to know Mark Carney, the less popular he'll become. He's a very flawed prime minister. He has significant challenges, including the fact that he moved corporate head offices from Toronto to New York. He used tax havens in Bermuda to help billionaires to save millions of dollars. And I think we'll soon find out that the emperor doesn't have any pants on.
How much of an effect did comments from Ontario Premier Doug Ford and U.S. President Donald Trump have on the result?
Yeah, like I've already said, I think Donald Trump cast a wide shadow. And like I said, whenever there's an external event, whether it be the 51st allegations, COVID, or any type of international conflict, there's a natural reaction to rally around the flag. And so I think that did buoy Mark Carney's effort, and he certainly leaned into that. I think that's a fair comment. With respect to Doug Ford, I'll leave that alone. As you know, Mark, I have a long-standing policy. You've been asking me for the last 6 years to comment on provincial politics, and for the last 6 years, I've politely declined. I think I'll continue to do that.
Your colleague to the west of you certainly didn't decline last night when he was asked.
Okay, I just knew. Okay.
Jamil.
Oh, okay.
He came right out and fired the shots across the bow of Doug Ford commenting on this election. Paraphrasing what he said was that, during his election, I didn't say anything about what he's done to education and healthcare. I kept my mouth quiet, but he certainly stepped into this, and he had some rather scathing words for Mr. Ford.
Well, I'm not going to comment other than the fact that Jamil Javani is a respected and tremendous colleague who I think is a very, very intelligent and good guy. We're up on break. When we come back, we'll center around Northumberland-Clarke, where you go from here, how your election night was. Nail-biting will compare it to the last two elections as well, but still lots more to talk about here on Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2025 federal election. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2025 federal election, the 45th general election, as we stay here on Tuesday, April 29th, where we have a Liberal minority. But Northumberland, Peterborough, I was about to say Northumberland. Yes, it did. Northumberland-Clarke has re-elected their first MP, Philip Lawrence. So, Philip, let's talk about the night. I was there. I was able to see it. Let's talk about the highs and lows of the evening for yourself, where, first couple of polls were in the Liberal favor, and then it seemed like you were on the upswing, and then some more polls would come down, and you would drop down. Many nights, a lot of times you were about 200 votes ahead, and then you kind of surged there for a little bit, and then drop back. So talk about that up and downness the whole entire night. No, so what was interesting was in 2000, both in 2019 and 2021, we were behind for a good portion, actually. Even in 2021, where we had our largest margin. This one we were actually ahead right from the get-go. But as you said, like it wavered. Like I'd be up 700 and then down 131, right? So, you know, like there's a commercial out there where they have parents having the same role as their hockey playing children. The idea is to teach those parents that maybe you shouldn't be screaming at children otherwise, right? Because imagine if you worked in an environment where everybody was watching you and cheering or booing your performance, right? Because this is what we do with our 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, including me. And so it was very. I told Tosh, I sort of leaned over to her. My son's a goaltender. It's probably. I feel like JT right now. Everyone's watching my performance as it's going on, like it's live, right? But I had in past years, and I think it was more of a tradition, gone after it'd been called. But last election specifically, I felt like I was letting my supporters down because by the time it was called, most people were gone. So I, gutted it out and went there, and because I wanted to meet the supporters and be there, win, lose or draw, and so. There were some anxious moments for sure. Yeah, 131 was the lowest it was after the initial couple of polls, and that was not pretty because we'd gone up to like 700, I think, or so, and then down to 131, and then we went up from there, right? So we actually ended up with a pretty decent spread. I think we got about the same as Jamil.
Yeah, your margin of victory, still 2 polls reporting, and obviously these aren't certified or verified yet, but 3,104 is what the number is that we have this morning.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Jamil's was 3,107. My good colleague and friend Adam Chambers is a similar, was 2,700. I think Michael Barrett was only about 3,000 or so.
Same as Scott Reed, who for years has walked away with that riding down there as well. He was in there as well.
Yeah, so we actually did relatively well, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention and thank Ryan Williams and Michelle Ferrari for their tremendous service. They were tremendous colleagues, I candidly would say publicly. I hope that they would consider running again. I think they represented their ridings admirably, but obviously Michelle lost and so did Ryan. And so, like I said, I was pleased to the extent that it demonstrated how hard our volunteers worked to have the margin we did. So
we'll get to the volunteers, but you brought up Michelle and Michelle and Ryan. So Michelle lost her seat to Liberal Emma Harrison by 10,160. Ryan lost his seat to Chris Smollett, Liberal, by 3,702 at the time of this taping. Why do you think you resonated or continued to resonate to win your seat when you saw around you Conservatives losing their seat?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't do anything to criticize Ryan or Michelle. I think they're both great MPs. One of the things that I think has helped us it's building on the legacy of predecessors alike, and really regardless of party, whether we're talking about Kim Rudd or Rick Norlock or Paul Macklin, there's a long established ethic of serving the community first and foremost. And so our constituency office, I think, does a fantastic job. We receive like daily emails about the fantastic work they've done to help people. And so Stephen Harper, in his first, right after they formed government, in his first caucus meeting, said the most important thing an MP can do is to help their community. And so while it's important that you review and you do your work studiously with respect to legislation in Ottawa, your first and guiding principle has to be your community. And that's something that's always resonated with me. And I hope that people see that.
I know you haven't. It'll take a while before you get it. You and your team can get a deep dive into results poll by poll and such. But you've been able to continue to grow your vote share. 27,385 in your first election in 19, 31,15 in 2021, 32,692 now. You've continued to increase your voter share as well, from 39 to 44 to 49 now. Margin of victory, though, 2408 in 19, 7679 in 2021, and then 3104. So what do you take from those numbers where you're growing your vote, you're growing your percentage, but maybe the victory, a greatest victory isn't as there as what it was before?
Yeah, so in terms of the margin, first of all, I think John Gohane did a great job, and perhaps more than halfway through this interview, I should have brought him up earlier, and I apologize for that. I think John worked very hard. I saw him out there; he was at every debate, and I think he grinded and did things the right way. So kudos to him. But I would say, in terms of the split, if you took sort of historical average of the NDP, you put that back in there, we would have had a massive margin. We would have had the biggest margin yet. In terms of our gross votes and then getting 50% of the votes, I really do believe that Pierre brought in new folks, right? So I talked to a lot of folks who at the doors who'd never voted before. And saw Pierre and saw him as really their last hope. These were often people who were in difficult economic positions and really needed hope and needed change, quite frankly. And so I think that's what helped us grow our vote share. And yeah, over 32,000 votes. I think that's around Rick Norlock territory, which is some pretty impressive company to be in. So.
Rick won by a little more than 20,000 votes. 20,000 votes. Yeah. So, because really in this riding too, you look at the NDP number, and I want to pass congratulations to Ava Becker, a 20-year-old Trent University student who was still doing exams and school and trying to fit in everything as well. I thought she was a great candidate. She knew her information. She knew her stuff. So congratulations to her, and congratulations to all the other candidates as well. But even here in this riding, we saw the NDP where from last election with Kim McArthur Jackson, 7,833 voters abandoned the NDP, even in this riding as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That had nothing to do with Ava Becker. She was a very strong candidate, and she was balancing things, but I know she was out there talking to people as well, and very intelligent, very bright light for our community. I look forward to watching her career as she goes forward. I hope she candidly, selfishly stays in our community and continues to be active, because I think she has a lot to contribute to our community. But it was more of a national thing, and occasionally, Mark, I will take my MP hat and put on my political commentator hat here, and I really do think that Canadians were tired with the existing government, and so the decision they made, especially progressives, was okay, we're done with Trudeau. He was the leader of that, but Jagmeet Singh was also part of that coalition, and so those guys did an awful job, so we want them fired. And so they said, well, this Mark Carney guy, yeah, he's a liberal, but maybe he's different. And I think we'll find out soon enough he isn't. And so they all shifted over there. And quite frankly, Jagmeet Singh's performance at the debates and otherwise was awful. I don't know any other word for it. It was just awful. And so I think Ava was really let down by her leadership team, and a very, very poor performance by Mr. Singh.
So where do you go from here now? When you take the look at these results, see what's happening, where do you go from here as the elected MP? Yeah,
so I mean, first, as we talked about before, I'll take Stephen Harper's advice and continue to work in the community and try to hear every voice that I can. We'll be back in Ottawa. I read this morning that Prime Minister Carney wants to recall Parliament, I think, in the next 3 weeks, which will be great. I would encourage, not that he's going to listen to me, but I would encourage Prime Minister Carney to go forward with some of the ideas that were popular, and they were our ideas. Getting pipelines built, a national energy corridor, cutting taxes, permanently eliminating the carbon tax. Those type of ideas I think would be great. They're something that we have a consensus on in Canada. It helped power him to his victory. And so let's say you ran at times as a Conservative. Let's see if you govern this one.
Do we see maybe Philip Lawrence stepping in to fill the void in the House of Commons, seeing you won't have a leader there, or what happens there?
You know what, that's a great question. I don't know. Mark, I will be more than happy to take a leader's round of questions should that happen. I'm just having a little fun there, guys. Don't go and printing that on the CBC, just having a little bit of fun there. But we have in all seriousness, we have very capable players, whether it be Melissa Lanceman, Tim Uppel, Jasraj Singh Halan, very, very capable, who will no doubt be up to the task of holding this government to account there. So.
Couple of minutes left here. Have you heard from any of the other candidates? Congratulations or anything yet?
I have not heard from John, but to be honest, that's my fault. I failed to send him my phone number. So we just sent it to him this morning, and I think we're going to connect sometime today. So yeah.
So obviously this doesn't happen about a minute and a half or so here without the support, and for the first time ever since you've been elected way back in 2019, I was able to meet face to face with your office staff, Ruth and Emma, who I've worked with for the past 5 years. 6 years. Never once have we graced each other's face to face, and we all had a good chuckle about the fact when we introduced ourselves. But that pair certainly led you to victory this time. Yeah,
we have, and if I can brag on my team for a couple, we have a great team, and I might add, and it's not because it's 2025. It's because they're the best people for the job. I have nearly an all-female team. I have my campaign manager, Ruth Morocco, my comms communicator, Emma Haynes, and our tech guru, Mona, and they are tremendous. And like I said, it's not because it's 2025, it's because they are the best people for the job, and so proud to be associated with such great people.
I saw the fear a couple times maybe in Ruth's face, as with everybody's face, as the results were coming in locally.
Yeah, no. Well, Ruth has like during the campaign, she would be at the office about 7 a.m. and not home until 10 o'clock, 7 days a week, and was just absolutely completely full into this. And I have a debt of gratitude I'll never be able to pay back to Ruth.
Philip, congratulations, and thanks for coming in this morning. I know we're both kind of tired, but happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and thank you, Mark. It's been great working with you for the last 6 years, and looking forward to working with you for the next 6 years if the people so choose.
You've been watching Your Vote, yourTV extensive coverage of the 2025 federal election.